Oh, the United States is making it clear it has the back of our closest ally in the Middle East. The White House saying in part, quote, Israel is a staunch ally of the United States, and we support its right to defend itself from the Iranian-backed Syrian and militia forces in southern Syria. We call on Iran and its allies to cease provocative actions and work toward regional peace. Joining us now is Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, who is also a former Israeli deputy defense minister, and he joins us from Florida today. Ambassador, welcome.
Good afternoon, Eric.
First, your reaction to, it really is a brazen and bold incursion by Tehran. Can you imagine Tehran sending a drone over your borders, the IDF calling it a quote, serious Iranian attack on Israeli territory?
Eric, it's a blatant violation of our sovereignty. Can you imagine an Iranian drone flying over Europe, over the US, over Russia? What would have been the reaction of those countries? What we saw yesterday was an example for what we have been warning for months. We cannot ignore the presence of Iran in Syria. They are building bunkers. They are bringing troops into Syria. Thousands of soldiers coming into Syria. And I ask myself why. ISIS has been defeated. So why the Iranians are building factories of missiles? Why they are bringing more troops? The only reason is to threaten Israel, to destabilize the region. We cannot allow Iran to becoming the largest arms depot in the Middle East.
Are you concerned that Iran could establish a base or many bases in Syria and even perhaps in Lebanon?
Indeed. We have that information, and we said it very clearly. We will not allow them to put presence next to our border, because we saw what happened yesterday. It was only a small example of the future, and we know that they want to create chaos in Syria. They want to have the same instability that they have today in Lebanon. They want to have it in Syria. That is something that I think the international community should address. And by the way, Eric, it's not only us who are worried about the Iranian presence. Other Arab countries are also following very carefully what's happening today in Syria.
So how do you fight back against Iran, not militarily, but perhaps in other ways, to prevent that? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has met several times with Russian President Vladimir Putin, for example, giving him that message that Israel will not accept Iranian bases and Iranian troops on its borders. Do you think that Putin will listen, and how do you get the world community then around to support you when it comes to Iran trying to extend its reach?
First, we expect the international community to speak very clearly about those violations. The Security Council passed resolutions that the Iranians are not obeying to them. So I think we should expect more from the UN, from the international community. But also, when we speak about the future of Syria, we have to make sure that those who are involved in the future agreement in Syria will know that the Syrians cannot put their forces next to our border, next to the Jordanian border. They have nothing to do today in Syria. Look at the demography of Syria today. It's not a Shiite state, but still today you see the Iranian recruiting militias from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq. They're paying them good money in order to come and to fight in Syria against Israel and to increase the instability.
Look, Israel has struck back at least, 100 times or so, they say, to Iranian depots that are supplying Hezbollah with missiles, as many as 150,000 missiles, perhaps, up there on the Lebanese border, and as well as the fact that in Damascus you've carried out these type of attacks. What is your message, and how do you think the U.S. should react in terms of trying to stop Iran, and if that is even possible? Or is this the first step toward, what potentially could be a broader conflict?
We don't seek any escalation. We hope to see stability in the region. Also, we want to see the end of the violation and the atrocities in Syria. But we cannot ignore the fact that the Iranians are trying to build factories of GPS-guided missiles that can threaten any target in Israel. We cannot allow it. We will do whatever is necessary to protect our citizens. And we expect from our allies and other players in the region to be worried also, because today the Iranians are invading into the Israeli airspace and are threatening Israel, but in the future it will be a threat also to Europe and the US.
Well, this was unbelievably provocative for them to send that drone over. They call it laughable, but still the danger and the threat is there from a nation that has called for wiping Israel off the map. Ambassador Danny Danon, thank you so much. And you'll be back at the United Nations this week. You've called on the UN Security Council to condemn this, and we'll certainly see what happens. Ambassador, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.